Imagine being trapped in a prehistoric wasteland, surrounded by people who no longer trust you, when the sky itself turns against you. A violent storm rolls in, structure collapses, and 2 lives hang by a thread. This is the story of The Storm, the 7th episode of Brea Season 1, an episode about guilt, forgiveness, and what it takes for a broken community to come back together. This breakdown is completely spoiler-warned for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, and everything ahead covers the episode in full detail, from the opening scene to the final twist. This episode, titled The Storm, aired in November 2021 and sits near the middle of the season, right before the show pivots hard into some of its biggest mysteries. After the fallout from a previous confrontation that left one of their own dead, the survivors in the clearing are more divided than ever. 2 women at the center of the blame, Eve and Mary Beth, find themselves on the outside of the group's trust. Meanwhile, back in the present day, Gavin is released from custody and begins chasing a cryptic clue about his own mysterious past. When an unforgiving winter storm suddenly hits the camp, old wounds are forced open, and the survivors have no choice but to work together if they want anyone to make it through the night alive. The episode opens in a somber mood. Eve is digging a grave for Diana, the young woman who was killed by a gunshot during the chaos of the previous episode. As Eve works, Mary Beth joins her, and the 2 women, both now viewed as outcasts by the rest of the camp, quietly bond over the guilt and grief they share. It's a rare moment of vulnerability between 2 characters who have spent the last several episodes clashing with almost everyone around them. Not far away, Scott shows Riley and Josh a stash of Civil War era gold that he and Lucas discovered earlier. Scott theorizes that the gold is proof that other people, from other points in history, have fallen into the same lost world before them, meaning the sinkhole isn't a one-time anomaly, but something that has been pulling people through time for generations. Josh is struggling the most. He blames his mother, Eve, for trapping them all in this nightmare, believing that her earlier decision to sabotage an escape attempt is the reason none of them have gone home. His anger isn't just directed at fate, it's deeply personal, and he refuses to soften toward her no matter how much she tries to make amends. This tension isn't limited to Josh. Across the camp, resentment toward Eve and Mary Beth is boiling over. Many of the survivors feel that the 2 women stripped away their chance at rescue and are responsible, directly or indirectly, for Diana's death. Sam, backed by a large portion of the camp, decides enough is enough and confronts Mary Beth, demanding she hand over her gun. Lucas, Mary Beth's own son, admits the hard truth to the group that his mother killed his father to protect him, which only deepens the community's unease about her. The distrust reaches a breaking point. During Diana's burial, the simmering anger explodes into a formal vote. The survivors decide whether Eve and Mary Beth should be cast out of the camp entirely. Only a handful of people, Riley, Scott, Sam, and Levi, stand by them. The majority votes to exile the 2 women, and they're forced to prepare to leave the safety of the clearing and fend for themselves in the wilderness. Just as Eve and Mary Beth are being pushed out, nature intervenes. A sudden, violent winter storm rolls in, the kind of extreme, abrupt weather event that this ancient version of Los Angeles apparently produces. High winds send a partially embedded telephone pole crashing down, along with heavy debris, directly onto a structure where Mary Beth and her son Lucas are in the middle of an argument. The 2 of them are trapped and injured beneath the wreckage, their lives suddenly in serious danger. The accident changes everything. Eve, despite being an outcast just moments earlier, immediately throws herself into the rescue effort, clawing at rubble and trying to dig a path down to reach Mary Beth and Lucas. It's a turning point for her character. Rather than defending herself or her reputation, she acts purely out of instinct to save 2 people who, technically, no longer wanted her around. Trapped beneath the debris, Mary Beth manages to shift enough wreckage to create a small opening and signal for help. In this desperate, intimate moment, she also finally tells Lucas the full truth about his father's death, confirming that she killed him specifically to protect her son, not out of cruelty. It's an emotional confession that reframes how Lucas and the audience understands his mother's most controversial decision. Realizing that manual digging won't be enough, Sam makes a bold call. He uses explosives to blast through the concrete and loosen the debris, pinning down the two survivors. The plan works. Mary Beth and Lucas are pulled free and brought to safety. The rescue does what words couldn't. Watching Eve risk everything to save the very people who voted her out, and seeing Sam's willingness to save Mary Beth, despite everything, softens the camp's hostility. Josh, who spends much of the episode paired with Riley while searching for tools to help with the collapse, is confronted by Riley's more mature, grounded perspective. She reminds him that his mother's actions, however disastrous the outcome, came from a place of love and protection, not malice. By the episode's end, Josh proposes something few expected, a new vote to let Eve and Mary Beth stay in the clearing after all. The camp agrees, but only under one condition: Mary Beth must give up her gun. She does, and Lucas gives his mother an encouraging nod. It's not a full resolution, but it's the beginning of an uneasy peace within the group. Away from the main camp, Ty, who had been tied up and abandoned near the gravesite by Veronica, regains consciousness just as a Tongva tribeswoman approaches. This woman, who had previously helped free Eve and Levi in an earlier episode, unties Ty, but before she can leave, he passes out again. When he wakes, he finds himself in a cave, his wounds already stitched up by her. She tells him that her people, the Tongva, refer to the survivors from the sinkhole as the Sky People, and reveals that people have been falling into this world and arriving in their land for generations, reinforcing the same idea Scott raised earlier about long-term sinkhole activity. Before she can head back to her village, the storm forces them to take shelter together. Stranded and isolated, the two slowly open up about their very different worlds, and a real connection begins to form. By the time the storm passes, they're on good terms, and Ty finally learns her name, Para. She leads him safely back toward the camp. In the present day, Gavin is released from police custody after being forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement about everything he's learned. Free once again, he reunites with his daughter Izzy, and teams up with Sophia to dig into his own hidden history. Sophia discovers that Gavin was placed into the care of children's services by a local church. When they speak with Reverend Harum, they learn something startling. The same church placed both Gavin and a 12-year-old girl into the system at the same time. This raises immediate questions about who this girl might be, and whether her fate is connected to Gavin's own mysterious origins. They also uncover a specific date tied to Gavin's past: November 16, 1988, the day he was adopted. This becomes their new lead, a concrete starting point to unravel exactly how Gavin ended up where he did, and why his life seems to be tangled up with the mystery of the sinkhole itself. Along the way, Gavin also experiences unsettling visions involving Diana and Sophia, hinting that something significant happened to him during his time in the prehistoric world that he hasn't fully processed or explained yet. Eve, a mother desperate to protect her family, Eve has made increasingly controversial choices to keep her loved ones together, even at the cost of the group's trust. This episode marks a turning point where her actions, rather than her words, begin to repair the damage. Mary Beth, a survivor carrying a heavy secret, she killed Lucas's father to protect him. Ostracized by the camp for her role in Diana's death, she finally finds the courage to be honest with her son during the episode's most dangerous moment. Lucas, Mary Beth's son, caught between loyalty to his mother and the horror of what she's done. His growth this episode comes from finally hearing the full truth and choosing to stand by her. Josh, Eve's son, consumed by anger and blame toward his mother for their situation. His arc this episode is about beginning, however reluctantly, to see her decisions in a more sympathetic light. Riley, a grounded, mature voice among the younger survivors, often serving as a moral compass for Josh and pushing him toward more empathy and less bitterness. Sam, a pragmatic and protective figure who initially pushes to disarm Mary Beth, but ultimately proves his loyalty to the group by risking everything to save her and Lucas. Scott, a curious and analytical presence, His discovery of Civil War-era gold introduces the larger mystery of the sinkhole's history and hints at other lost time travelers. Ty left for dead by Veronica. Ty's storyline this episode is about survival and unexpected connection. As he begins to bond with Para, a member of the Tongva people who has already shown kindness to the sinkhole survivors once before. Her deepening relationship with Ty offers a rare, hopeful window into peaceful contact between the two worlds. Gavin, a man whose personal history turns out to be deeply tied to the mysteries of the sinkhole. His search for the truth about his childhood becomes one of the show's central mysteries. Sophia, Gavin's ally in the present day, helping him piece together clues about his past and the strange connection between his adoption and the world beneath Los Angeles. The revelation that another 12-year-old girl was placed into the system by the same church at the same time as Gavin, suggesting his past is intertwined with someone else's story in a way no one has explained yet. Mary Beth's full, unfiltered confession to Lucas about killing his father, finally giving him and the audience the complete picture behind one of the show's darkest secrets. The idea, reinforced by both Scott's gold discovery and Para's explanation of the Sky People, that the sinkhole has been active for a very long time, pulling in people from many different eras, not just the present day. The episode ends on a note of fragile unity. After nearly losing 2 members of their group to the storm, the camp chooses compassion over vengeance, reversing its decision to banish Eve and Mary Beth, provided Mary Beth surrenders her weapon. It's not full forgiveness, but it's survival-driven pragmatism. The community realizes it cannot afford to fracture any further if it wants to endure this hostile world. Meanwhile, the present-day storyline closes with Gavin holding a real lead for the first time, a specific date, and a mysterious second child tied to his adoption. This sets up the deeper mystery of who Gavin really is and how his personal history might explain why the sinkhole exists at all. Reliable sources confirm that the Tongva reference to Sky People is meant to establish that people have fallen through the sinkhole across many generations, not just in the present timeline, a detail that lines up directly with Scott's Civil War gold theory. Beyond these confirmed connections, any deeper symbolic meaning behind the storm itself, or the exact significance of the 12-year-old girl mentioned by Reverend Harem, has not been officially confirmed and remains open to interpretation by fans. This episode directly follows the fallout from the confrontation and shooting that closed out the previous episode, and it sets up the next chapter of Gavin's mystery, which becomes central as the season heads toward its finale. The reference to Para and the Tongva builds on her earlier appearance, continuing the show's slow burn exploration of contact between the survivors and the indigenous people of this ancient land. The storm originally aired on NBC in November 2021 and is now available to stream on Peacock. The episode marks a notable shift in group dynamics, moving several characters from open hostility toward tentative cooperation. It's one of the first episodes to strongly hint that the sinkhole has a much longer, multi-generational history than the survivors initially realized. The storm is ultimately an episode about earning forgiveness through action rather than words. Eve and Mary Beth don't talk their way back into the group's good graces. They dig, they bleed, and they risk their lives, and that's what finally changes minds. At the same time, the present-day mystery around Gavin's past takes a major step forward, planting seeds that will shape the rest of the season. If you enjoyed this breakdown, let us know in the comments what you think really happened to Gavin as a child, or which character's journey in this episode hit you the hardest. Don't forget to like this video if it helped you understand the episode better, and subscribe to Screen Central for more web series, TV series, and movie breakdowns, ending explained videos, and detailed episode analyses. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next upload.